Yo, what's up? Today we're learning the first daf of Masechta Shabbos. It's pretty exciting stuff. I'll tell you, the first daf's a bit of could break your brain a little bit. Let's just say that. Could break your brain a little bit. Broke my brain a little bit, but it's alright. Cool. So we're going to start, of course, from the top, the very beginning of the Masechta. Here we go. So now, to understand basically this first Mishnah that we're going to start with, you have to understand something that's called Hotzah Mirishus L'Rishus on Shabbos. That means that on Shabbos, one of the malachas, right? There are, of course, 39 avot melachot. There are 39, fathers of melacha on Shabbos, and then there's all sorts of children. And we're actually already going to start talking about parents and children melachas today, like what's an av and what's considered a tolada. We'll get there pretty soon. But anyways, so one of these melachas that on Shabbos is prohibited is what's called hotzah merishus l'rishus. That means taking something and picking it up. That's what's called an akira. You pick it up in one rishus, okay, and you bring it to another rishus and you put it down. That's what's called a hanacha. Okay, a hanacha is putting it down. So now a rishus, let's just keep things like super general and simple, would be rishus hayachid would be a private domain, like inside your house, and rishus harabim would be a public area, like let's say outside your house. And the Mishnah is already going to be talking about right now a situation where if you have somebody picks up something, so he does an akira in his house, sticks his hand out the window, okay, and then gives it to another person who's standing outside the house in rishus harabim in a public area, and that person then puts it down over there, and that would be a hanacha in rishus harabim. So you had an akira in rishus hayachid and a hanacha in rishus harabim. Okay, so that's the melacha of hotzah merishus l'rishus. Now, in order for somebody to be chayav mida oraisa for hotzah, you would have to do both the akira and you would also have to do the hanacha in a different rishus, okay? If you did the akira and somebody else did the hanacha, that would only be asur midrabanan, as we are going to see. Now, let's just mention one more thing. I mentioned avos and tolados. Let's just already mention it now. So, the av, the sort of parent melacha for hotzah, is hotzah, right? Taking something, from, let's say, rishus hayachid, and being motzi it to rishus harabim, taking it out from rishus harabim, and that is learned from the pasuk in the context of building of the Mishnah of the Mishkan. It says, where's the pasuk now that I want it? Mivaya aviru kol b'machaneh. The pasuk says, "Vayitzav Moshe commanded by aviru kol b'machaneh, and they passed a voice in the camp, lemor, to say, ish v'isha al yasu od melacha l'sumas hakodesh v'yikalei al mi'avi." Let's say nobody else, right? We don't want anybody else, bring anything more for the donations to the Mishkan, and everybody then stopped bringing. So the implication of bringing more is that you're taking something from your house and you're going to bring it there to where they're going to do the malacha. So that's hotzah, right? So that's from the implication of the pasuk. All we learn is sort of taking something from my house, from my rishus hayachid, and then bringing it to the rishus harabim, to the public area where they were collecting the donations for the Mishkan. However, there is another aspect over here, which is also hachnasa, which is bringing into my house, right? That if I take something from the public domain, from the rishus harabim, and I bring it into my house, that would be hachnasa, and that is also asur mida oraisa, right? It might not be, the immediate implication of the pasuk. The immediate implication of the pasuk is taking from my house and bringing it outside to where they're collecting things. That would be hotzah, but a tolada of hotzah, right, is hachnasa, which is, because at the end of the day, the important thing is that you're bringing something from one domain to another domain, right? So it doesn't really matter if I'm bringing it from my house to the rishus harabim or from the rishus harabim into my house. Both of them are going to be asur midoraisa, and therefore the av, the immediate implication of the pasuk, is hotzah, but the tolada, the child sort of melacha, which is also asur midoraisa, is going to be hachnasa, bringing it into my house. Okay, I think that with that introduction, we have enough to get moving. So, here we go. Says the Mishnah, Yitzios HaShabbos, shtayim shein arba b'fnim, v'shtayim shein arba b'chutz. So when we're talking about hotzah on Shabbos, okay, so Bifnim is the guy who's standing inside, okay? In the Mishnah is going to refer to him as the Ba'al Abayis, the owner of the house, okay? So Bifnim, the person, from the perspective of the person standing inside, okay? So there's Shtayim Shein Arba. There are two Milachas Midoraisa over here, okay? From the perspective of the Ba'al Abayis. And then there's going to be an additional two things that are going to be Asr, that he's not allowed to do Midorabanan, okay? That he's not allowed to do midrabanan, and if he doesn't, then he's patur. He's not chayiv, he's patur. In the context of Shabbos, whenever we say patur, it means patur aval asur, right? You aren't going to be punished for it, you're not going to get in trouble for it, but it's nonetheless not allowed. So there are, from the perspective of the Baal Abayis, there are two things that he can do that would be asur midoraisa, okay? And then there's another two things that he would not be allowed to do midrabanan. But if he did them, he would be patur. And then ushtayim shein arba bachutz, and then there are from the perspective of the person standing outside the house, there are two things that he can do that would be asur midoraisa, and then an additional two things that, again, it would be patur aval asur. Here we go. Now, Kate said, how are these things? Ha'ani omed bachutz. Okay, so the Mishnah is referring to the person standing outside the house as a poor person, and the person standing inside the house as the owner of the house. So ha'ani omed bachutz. So if you have the poor person standing outside, okay? Uval abayis bifnim, and you have the homeowner inside the house, okay? Pasha te'ani es yadu lifnim. So if the poor person sticks his hand inside the house, v'nasan lesoch yadu shabal abayis, and he puts something in the house of the bal abayis, in the hand of the bal abayis, okay? So you have the ani who's standing outside. He picks something up outside, sticks his hand through the window inside the house, into the bal abayis' house, and he gives it now to the Baal Abayis. Okay, so he did the Akira in Rishus Harabim. He stuck his hand through the window, and he did a Hanacha inside the house of the Baal Abayis. Okay, so that would be Hachnasa, right? Because he's bringing it from Rishus Harabim into Rishus Hayachid. O shenatal mitocha v'hotzi, or if the Ani stuck his hand through the window into the Baal Abayis' house, picked something up from the Baal Abayis' house, okay, and then brought it back outside to him. So i.e. there was an Akira in Rishus HaYachid, and then a Hanacha in Rishus HaRabim, and that's Hotza, because he's being motzi from Rishus HaYachid to Rishus HaRabim. So Ani Chayev Uval Abayis Patur. In both of those cases, the Ani would be Patur. What's patur? Exempt. You wouldn't be, there's no punishment or anything, and there's no consequences, implications. And the Balabayis, the Balabayis would be patur in that case, and the Ani in that case would be chayav for otza midoraisa, because he did both the picking up and the putting down. In the first case, he picked it up in the Rishus Harabim and put it down in the Rishus Hayachid. In the second case, he picked it up in the Rishus Hayachid and put it down in the Rishus Harabim. Now, Pashat Bala Abayis, so fine, those are the two things that an Ani would be Chayav Midoraisa for. What are the two things that a Bala Abayis would be Chayav Midoraisa for? So Pashat Bala Abayis is Yadu Lachutz. If the Bala Abayis stuck his hand out through the window to the Rishus Harabim, okay, V'nasan L'soch Yado Shel Ani, and placed something in the hand of the poor person, okay, so he basically picked something up in his house, in the Rishus HaYachid, stuck his hand through the window, and gave it to the poor person, right? And then there was a hanacha in Rishus Harabim. O shenato mitocha, or he picked something up from the poor person in the Rishus Harabim, v'yichnis balabayis, and then the balabayis did a hachnasa, he brought it into his house and put it down in his house, chayav v'yichnis, so balabayis chayav ve'ani pater. So the balabayis in that case, in both of those cases would be chayav, okay? In the first case, where he did an Akira inside of his house and Anacha in the Rishus Harabim, or in the second case, when the Balabais did a Akira in Rishus Harabim and a Anacha inside the house. In both cases, he would be Chayev ve'ani patur. The Ani didn't do anything. Although, why does it say patur, which is interesting? Does that mean that it would be patur aval asr for the Ani to be sort of like an accomplice in this? That's actually kind of interesting. I wonder why it says patur. Because he doesn't do anything, but at the same time, I guess maybe he's like an accomplice. I don't know. Because again, patur in the context of Shabbos always means patur aval asur. Okay. Now, Pashat Balabayis es Yado Lachutz. No, did we just do this? Yeah, we just did this. Okay, let's go weiter. Now, Pashat Ani es Yado Lifnim Vinatal Balabayis Mitocha. Now, what if the poor person picked up something outside, put his hand through the window, but now instead of putting it down inside or putting it down into the, Balabayis' hand, instead, the Balabayis took it from the poor person and put it down in his house. So basically, the poor person did the Akira in Rishus HaRabim, and the Balabayis did the Hanacha in Rishus HaYachid. So they basically collaborated on this Melacha, because the Melacha, again, of course, is doing the Akira and the Hanacha. But here, each one only did 50%. The Ani did the Akira, the Balabais did the Hanacha. O, Shenasan the Socha, Veotzi. Or, the poor person stuck his empty hand into the house. The Ba'alabayis then picked up an item from his house, put it in the empty hand of the Ani. The Ani then took his hand back out through the window and put it down in Rishus HaRabim. So in this case, the Ba'alabayis did the Akira, and the Ani did the Hanacha. Shneim P'turin. So in that case, both of them are P'turin, because neither one did the complete Halacha. Neither one did the Akira and the Hanacha. They split it. So they're both P'turin. Pashat Balabayis es Yado Lachutz V'nata La'ani Mitocha. Now the opposite case, when the Balabayit picks up something in his house, sticks his hand out the window and puts it down, and then the Ani takes it from him and puts it down. O Shenasan Nesocha V'echnis, or the Balabayis stuck his empty hand out the window, the Ani picked something up, put it in his hand, and then the Balabayis brought it inside. Shneim P'turin, both of them are P'turin, because again, in those cases also, neither one alone did the Akira and the Hanacha. In order to be Chayiv Midoraisa for Hotza Me'Rishus L'Rishus on Shabbos, one person has to do both the Akira and the Hanacha. If it's 50-50, if they split it, so then it would only be Patur of Al-Asur, right? There wouldn't be there would be no consequences, but it would nonetheless not be allowed. Okay, fine. So now, Rashi points out that when we're saying, okay, so when we say Shtaim Shehin Arba Bifnim, so basically they're from the perspective of the person inside, from the perspective of the Balabayis, there are two things that he is not allowed to do Midoraisa. That would be Hotza'a and Hachnasa. Hotza'a would be when he picks something up in his house, sticks his hand out the window, and puts it down in Rishus HaRabim. So that would be Hotza'a Midoraisa, because he did both the Akira and the Hanacha. And then Hachnasa would be if he stuck his empty hand out the window, picked up something in Rishus HaRabim, brought it inside, and put it down in his house. That would be Hachnasa. Both of those would be Asur Midoraisa from the perspective of the Balabayis. But there are additional two things that would be Patur Aval Asur. Okay? And that would be if he picked it up, if he basically collaborated with the Ani, right? And Rashi points out that there's essentially two collaboration scenarios, and they're shared by both the Balabayis and the Ani, okay? That would be, one of them would be when the Balabayis does the Akira and the Ani does the Hanacha. And the second one would be when the Ani does the Akira and the Balabayis does the Hanacha, okay? So, great. So therefore, there's the two Isur Midoraisa from the perspective of the Balabayis, and then there's the additional two sort of collaborative, Hotza and Achnasa situations that, where he does the Akira and the Ani does the Hanacha, or the Ani does the Akira and the Balabayis does the Hanacha. And then of course from the perspective of the Ani as well, there's going to be the Hotza Midoraisa and the Achnasa Midoraisa. Hotza Midoraisa would be if the Ani stuck his hand inside the house of the Balabayis, picked up something, then took it back out to Rishus HaRabim with him and put it down there. So that would have an Akira in Rishus HaYachid and Hanacha in Rishus HaRabim, and that would be Hotza'a Midoraisa. And then from the Ani's perspective again, Hachnasa Midoraisa would be if he picked it up in Rishus HaRabim, stuck his hand through the window, put it down in the Balabayis' house, and did the Hanacha over there. And then the two things that would be asur, that would be pater aval asur from the perspective of the ani would be the same as for the balabais, which would be if either he did the akira and the balabais did the anacha, or the balabais did the akira and he did the anacha, that would be pater aval asur. Okay, I hope that was clear enough. Cool. Now, Tnan. We have a Mishnah at the very beginning of Masechta Shavuos. Now, Masechta Shavuos is not about the holiday Shavuos. It is about making oaths. Okay? And we say over there, Tnan Asam, Shavuos Shtaim Shehein Arba. Okay. So when it comes to oaths, there are two kinds of oaths that are specifically referred to in the Torah. And then there's another two oaths that we learn out in addition to those. Okay? So the two oaths that come directly from the Torah would be what's called a Shavuos Bitoy, which is if you say, I'm going to eat something, or I'm not going to eat something, right, in the future. But then we also learn out that there's an additional two oaths which are in the past. If you say, I didn't eat something, and in fact you did, or if you say, I'm not, or I did eat something, and in fact you didn't, those would be an additional two. Okay? So there's two kind of base oaths, plus another two oaths that they learn out after that. Hidios Hatuma Shtaim Shein Arba. Don't worry, we're not getting into all this Tuma and Tara stuff like we did in the 8th parak of Brachos. Rather, just basically, if you were to, let's say, become Tameh by, let's say, touching a dead bug, a dead sheretz, okay? Now, you would not be allowed to go into the Beis HaMikdash, and you would also not be allowed to eat kudshim, okay? Like a korban shlamim or something like that. Okay, so let's say you, touched a sheretz, and then you forgot that you touched a sheretz, and then someone's like, hey, I got some shlamim meat over here, do you want to eat it? And you're like, yeah, of course, I would love to. Or you went into the Beis HaMikdash for some reason, but at the time that you ate the shlamim, or at the time that you went to the Beis HaMikdash, you forgot that you had touched a sheretz, right? So those are the two initial sort of cases of when you would have to bring a korban for what's called Yedios Hatuma. And then there's two additional cases, which one was then when you didn't actually even realize that you were eating shlamim, like kudshim meat, or you didn't actually realize somehow that you're going to the Beis HaMikdash. So those are the additional two. So we have the two base ones plus an additional two when it comes to Dios Hatuma. And then Maros Negaim Shnaim Shein Dalid. Also when it comes to Tzara'as, there's the two sort of initial kinds of tzaras, which are se'es and baheres, and then there's two additional kinds of tzaras, which, it depends sort of the shade of the tzaras. Fine, but there's two base ones, there's another two, and then the Mishnah says, Yitzios HaShabbos Shtaim Shein Arba. Now when it comes to Hotza'ah, Merishus L'Rishus on Shabbos, there are also, two sort of initial kinds of Hotza'ah, plus another two. Fine. So the Gemara wants to know, Ma'ishna hacha ditani beis shein dalad b'fnim uveis shein arba b'chutz u'ma'ishna hasam ditani shnaim shein arba v'sulo. Okay, so the Gemara wants to know, how come in Masechta Shavuos, when it mentions Yitzios HaShabbos shtaim shein arba, it just says that when it comes to Hotzah Merishus L'Rishus on Shabbos, there are two Hotzahs that are also four, and then it stops there. Whereas in our Mishnah over here, we said there's two that are four just from the perspective of the Baal Habayis, but there's another two that are four from the perspective of the Ani. So how come over there it just says Shtaim Shein Arba and that's it? Whereas over here it says Shtaim Shein Arba B'fnim and also Shtaim Shein Arba B'chutz. So the Gemara answers, well, okay, Acha De'ikr Shabbasu, over here, where it's sort of, this is Masechta Shabbos, right? This is where we're talking about all the halachos of Shabbos, so we go into more details. Tani avos v'tani tolados. So we include here both the avos and the tolados, okay? What's the av? The av melacha here is hotza'ah. The tolada is hachnasa. So over here, in Masechta Shabbos, we're talking about both the tolados, the avos and the tolados. So therefore, by the Baal Habayis, there is hotza'ah and achnasa, mida oraisa. And by the ani also, there is hotza'ah and achnasa, mida oraisa. Whereas Hasam, over there in Shavuos, Dilav Ikar Shabbasu, where it's not the main sugya of Shabbos, it's talking about oaths over there. It just happens to mention Shabbos, so it doesn't go into all the details. Avos Tani, Tolados Lo Tani. So it only mentions the Avos Melacha, which is Hotza'ah. It doesn't mention Achnasa. And therefore it just says Shtaim Shein Arba, and that is it. So what are those two things that are going to be Asur Mida Oraisa over there, they are going to be when the Baal Habayis picks it up and sticks his hand out the window and puts it down in Rishus Harabim, and also when the Ani sticks his hand in the window, picks something up and brings it out to Rishus Harabim, right? Both of those are Hotza'ah, but we didn't get into Achnasa where the Baal Habayis picks something up in Rishus Harabim and brings it into his house, or when the Ani picks something up in Rishus Harabim and puts it down inside the house. It doesn't get into there, it's only talking about the Avos. So the Gemara says, Avos my nihu. So what are the Avos? Yitzios. Okay. What are the Avos Melacha? That's Hotzah, not Achnasa, only Hotzah. V'yitzios Tarte Havyon. Okay. And there are two Hotzahs, right? As I said, there's the Hotzah when the Baal Habayis picks it up and puts it down outside, and then there's the Hotzah when the Ani picks it up from the house and brings it outside. There's only two Hotzahs. V'chi tema men l'chiyuv men liftor. But then you're going to say, okay, so when we say Shtayim Shein Arba, right, so then there's going to be, so there's two Hotzahs that you're Chayiv Mida Oraisa on, right, when the Baal Habayis does both the Akira and the Hanacha, and when the Ani does both the Akira and the Hanacha. And then there's two of them that they're going to be Pater, which is when they collaborate on the Hotzah. So for example, if the Baal Habayis picks up something in his house, right, and then puts it in the hand of the Ani while it's still in his house, then the Ani takes it outside and puts it down. So that would be Pater. The other one would be where the Baal Habayis picks it up in his house, sticks it outside, and then the Ani takes it from him and puts it down, right? In both of those cases, he would be Pater, because they split the Akira and the Hanacha. The Baal Habayis did the Akira, and the Ani did the Hanacha. But one second, it's taught in the Mishnah right next to Maros Negayim, right next to Tsaras. Mahasam kulu l'chiyuva, hafachanami kulu l'chiyuva. But if by the Negayim all four types of Tsaras are equally Tameh, right? So if you have any kinds of those four types of Tsaras and you're going to the Beis HaMikdash, you're going to be Chayiv this just the same. So why? So wouldn't make sense to say that over here not over here, but when it comes to Yitzios HaShabbos Shtayin Shein Arba over there in that Mishnah in Shavuos, that two of them would be Chayiv and two of them would be Pater. So Ella, Amar Rav Papa, so rather, how does Rav Papa explain the Mishnah in Shavuos? So it's not talking about only Hotza'ah and saying that two of them are Chayiv and two of them are Pater. No, rather, Amar Rav Papa, Hacha, the Iker Shabbosu over here in Masechta Shabbos, where it's the main sugyas of Shabbos, right? Tani Chiyuve Ufture. Okay. So here in Masechta Shabbos, we talk about both the things that you're chayiv for and the things that you're pater for. But Hasam over there, Delavikar Shabbos, where in Masechta Shavuos, it's not the main sugyas of Shabbos. Chiyuve Tani Ufture Lo Tani. So it only mentions the things that you're chayiv for. So when we say Shtayim Shein Arba, so then all four of them are things that you're going to be chayiv for, both the Shtayim and the Arba. And we'll see what those are in a second. So Chiyuve Mai Nihu. So, okay, what are these Chiyuvim? Right? We said that all four of the things that we're talking about in Shavuos are you're chayiv for. So what are these? What are the things that you're chayiv for? Yitzios. You're chayiv for Hotzah. But Yitzios Tarte Havyon. But Hotzah, there's only two kinds of Hotzah, right? Right? The Baal Habayis picking it up and putting it down outside, and the Ani, right, picking it up from the Baal Habayis in the Rishus, right, picking it up in the Rishus HaYachid and putting it down outside. Those are only two Hotzahs. So I understand Shtayim, what's Shtayim Shein Arba? So the Gemara says, Shtayim de Hotzah v'Shtayim de Achnasa. So we say, what's the Shtayim Shein Arba in Masechta Shavuos? It's not just the Hotzahs, it's also the Achnasas. It's the Avos and the Tolados. And you're Chayiv Midoraisa for all four of them. So the Shtayim Shein Arba in Masechta Shavuos is the two Hotzaos, and then plus the additional two Hachnosos, which are the Tolados, and you're Chayiv Midoraisa for all four of them. Okay. Vayitzios katani, but one second, but it says over there, Yitzios hashabbos Shtayin Shein Arba, not Yitzios ve'achnosos Shtayin Shein Arba. So Amar Rav Ashi, Tana achnosa nami otza karila. So no, so Rav Ashi says that when the Mishnah, when it teaches Hotzah, right, it also includes Hachnasa, which is a Tolada of Hotzah. Mimai, and how do we know this? Miditznan. If we look on Daf Ein Gimel Amud Beis in Perek Klal Gadol, it says Hamotzim Rishus LeRishus Chayiv. somebody who's motzi, so it says the lashon of hotzah, but it says merishus l'rishus, from one domain to another domain, is chayiv. It's a malacha on Shabbos. So milo askinan to come out merishus harabim l'rishus hayachid, is that not also talking about when you're taking something from rishus harabim into rishus hayachid? V'kakari le'hotzah, right? And we're calling it hotzah, meaning even though you're taking it from rishus harabim into rishus hayachid, so that's hotzah, that's bringing it inside, and we're still calling it hotzah, right? So when the Mishnah talks about hotzah, it doesn't strictly mean going from, rishus hayachid to rishus harabim. It also refers to bringing some from rishus harabim into rishus hayachid, which is achnasa. B'taima mai, how come the teacher of the Mishnah refers to achnasa as hotzah? Because kol akiras chayfetz mimekomo tana hotzah karele. Because anything that you are picking up something from its place refers to as hotzah, right? So even if that means that you're picking it up and in rishus harabim and bringing it into rishus hayachid, we still call that hotzah. But when it says that yitzios haShabbos or shtayim shein arba, when it says that in Masechta Shavuos, it's referring to hotzah and achnasa, and it's talking about the 4 things that you're going to be chayiv mida oraisa. Okay? Amar Ravina, says Ravina, masnisa nami deka. You can also imply it from our Mishnah. Dikatani yitzios v'kam afarish achnasa la'alter shmamina. Right? In our own Mishnah, right? Beis Amud Aleph of Shabbos, it says yitzios haShabbos shtayim shein arba. Right? It says that the yitzios, hotzah on Shabbos, is shtayim shein arba b'fnim, shtayim shein arba b'chutz. And what's the first thing that it explains? What's the first example of hotzah that it gives? Ha'ani omed b'chutz, the ani is standing outside, u'val habayis b'fnim, pashat ha'ani is yadu l'fnim, v'nasan l'soch shel ba'al habayis. The first example is the ani picking up something in rishus harabim, sticking his hand into the house, and putting it down in the hand of the ba'al habayis. That's achnasa. That's the first example that the Mishnah gives for hotzah. So clearly, when the Mishnah is talking about hotzah, it includes achnasa. Rava gives a cool answer. He says, Rishuyos katani, Rishuyos Shabbos shtayim. So Rava gives a cool answer, which is that when it says shtayim shein arba, it means that there are 2 Rishuyos on Shabbos, the Rishus harabim and Rishus hayachid, shein arba, that have 4 sort of kinds of hotzah and achnasa that we don't do on Shabbos, right? For the, bifnim and shtayim shein arba b'chutz, right? Both from the perspective of the Baal HaBayis, there's a Rishus harabim and a Rishus hayachid, and there are 4 things that he wouldn't be allowed to do. 2 of them are midaraisa and 2 of them are midarabanan. And also from the perspective of the ani, there's a Rishus harabim and a Rishus hayachid, and there are 4 things that he would not be allowed to do. 2 of them would be midaraisa and 2 of them would be midarabanan. That is the first daf of Masechta Shabbos. It was a little bit confusing. I think that the main thing to keep in mind over here is that when it comes to hotzah merishus l'rishus, you are chayiv midoraisa when one person does both the akira and the hanacha. Okay, if they split it between each other, one person does the akira, the other person does the hanacha, it's going to be pater aval asur. You're not going to be, there's no punishment, you're not in trouble, but it's still not allowed. That's essentially the first daf. Yeah, we already learned some interesting stuff already in that first daf about hotzah merishus l'rishus. We also learned about avos and tolados. All sorts of interesting stuff like that. It's also what's interesting about this is that it's a much shorter daf than Masechta Brachos, right? Masechta Brachos, remember those dafs were humongous. Here there's not that much text on the daf. There's actually not that much text at all, but it's certainly, just the style of the daf is much different already from Masechta Brachos. It's very, you really got each word you really got to think about, and you got to stop and make sure everything's clear and make sure you don't get confused, and, because they can already shtayim, shein arba, bifnim, bachutz, right? Pater, chayav, every single word now becomes very, very important here. So, hope you all enjoyed the first daf Masechta Shabbos. I'm looking forward to learning the second daf with you. Have a great day. Bye.